Hi, I'm Shelley Maurer,
And I'm Cher Emmerich. Welcome to Life Lessons from Pickleball,
where we engage with pickleball players from around the world about life on and off the court.
Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Life Lessons from Pickleball, everyone. Oh my gosh, today we are so grateful to have as our guest Ilana Long. Ilana, you are the author of not just one, but two pickleball-themed romantic comedies. I just love that. Pickleballers, which is available right now, and your newest book, Pickle Perfect, coming out in October of this year, 2025. You're also the incredible voices behind the hit audio version of Pickleballers.
Ilana, your creative journey is as fun and fearless as your writing. From studying and performing improv at the Second City in Chicago to working as a stand up comic, sketch comedy writer, actress, and author. Whether it's picture books, essays in Chicken Soup for the Soul, or laugh out loud fiction, which I'm currently experiencing, which I love, you are a storyteller with a seriously sharp sense of humor.
And even though you claim to have no eye hand coordination, you still found yourself hooked on pickleball, thanks to a friend who you describe as saying, ping pong, but standing on the table.
Exactly.
You are a mom of twins. So
Uh-huh.
fun. I have twin grandsons, so I know it's a fun adventure.
Mhm.
A master of punchlines, and split your time between Bellevue, Washington and Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
So we have a lot to cover. But let's start at the beginning. Was humor always a big part of your life growing up?
I always loved humor. I mean, I suppose I was kind of the class clown for a little while.
You were. We
But
wondered about that.
yeah, I mean, somebody had to be. And for in high school, I would write for the comedy, like a comedy article in our high school newspaper. And then in college, I did the same. And I started in college joining the all women's comedy group called Bloomers at University of Pennsylvania, where I went to college.
Wow.
And when I realized I really wanted to have a co-ed group go, so I started an improv comedy group there that's called Without a Net with a friend of mine. And that group is still going on at Penn and also traveling, touring the country sometimes. And so it's a really cool legacy to have. But and I just continued doing comedy all my life. I studied at Second City, like you said, and later on, I I really wanted my career to have comedy involved. And I mean, I guess being a high school teacher for a lot of that, it was, but
Intentional and unintentional.
not intentionally, but did have a lot to do. I did have to keep my sense of humor about me,
Indeed.
and so. But I've always done acting and stand-up comedy and sketch comedy and a lot of comic writing. So I've really enjoyed it all my life.
Wow. Can you remember the first time you made somebody laugh and that feeling that you liking
Yeah,
that feeling?
I do. I actually have, well, I have a real strong memory of my older sister and I. We used to play this game, Make Me Laugh, right? Make me smile, make me laugh. And we would try as hard as we could to make the other person, you would try to keep a straight face,
Mhm.
and then the other person would try to make you laugh. And so I could get my sister every time. And I knew exactly, I would toy with her a little. I would do things that would not make her laugh because I would be holding on to the thing that I knew was going to make her laugh. So it would build and build until she was like really ready to burst. And then I would say, "Hi, I'm Dr. Staples." And I don't know
That
but
did it.
we both thought that was the funniest thing ever, and I have no idea why. And but,
But it worked.
but it worked. And if I and I still I can say to her, we're on the phone, and I'll pick up and I'll see it's her, and I'll go, "Hi."
Oh,
And she'll
that's
start laughing.
I love those lines that no
Yeah,
matter what, they will always get you every time. That's
right.
so cool. We think of comedy as being so lighthearted, but how hard is it to be a comedian and take that on and without a net, your group creating that and all that? What
Right.
was that like?
Well, the hardest thing for me was both stand up and improv comedy. stand up because it's such a vulnerable experience.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is about you. Eyes are on you. You've written the material and you're in the moment. There's no processing like experience time. Let's see, does that joke work? Does that joke not work? I mean, you can do it over time, but with the different audience, it may have a totally different
Yeah.
reaction.
Good point.
So that was a very vulnerable and a very serious experience for me. And when I was doing more comedy, it was in the early 90s, really. And at that point, it was very much a boys' club. And it was very hard for me as a woman to be up there without falling into, well, if I could just be crass, like really, really low blue humor, I could
Yeah.
get a laugh. But I didn't really want to necessarily go there. Guys could go there very easily, or many could. But on me, it seemed false and forced and uncomfortable. So it was a challenge to find my niche, which was to eventually talk about being a teacher, talk about being a parent, talk about being, the things that are just about being a woman and, about the experiences of being a woman. And those moments sort of helped me sort of find my niche there once I finally figured out what it was that made me and unique in stand-up comedy. And I found the same thing with improv, was that I had this feeling that I wasn't as funny as the guys. And so I would, be off stage and nervous about like jumping on and coming in. It was about my confidence level. And eventually they would call me on. They'd be, Ilana, come and sit at the table. You're the blind date. You're the one who's waiting for the blind date. So I got sort of pigeonholed after a while into this part of being the straight character, the one who's waiting at the table for somebody funny to come in, and I could just be the straight character. So I found that those things were not working for me. I wanted to control my own trajectory in comedy. And so I started to write sketch comedy where I had time to think through the jokes and time to create. And I wrote with a partner, and she and I put on this show together called for the Seattle Sketch Fest, which was called Broad Comedy. And the two of us, there's a bobcat just walked outside my window.
Get out.
Bobcat.
A bobcat?
Are you kidding me?
And
No,
your husband's
I saw it a
outside?
week and a half ago, and my husband is outside. He did not see it.
Go tell him.
It has gone around the corner. It's gone away from him. But that is
A
crazy.
bobcat?
Bobcat. Wait, in Bellevue? Where are you in Bellevue?
I'm in Bellevue at Phantom Lake. I mean, this
Oh,
is the same bobcat I saw about 2 weeks ago. I was sitting outside. This is a crazy story. Defrosting a piece of salmon on a rock. Okay.
Hello.
Okay,
hello.
I know.
Is this one of your sketches?
This is really just a true story, but I'm just going to go here. I'm going to go off on a tangent for a second, if I
I
may.
love it.
Yeah.
But defrosting a piece of salmon, and this bobcat comes towards the salmon. But the first thought that goes through my mind is, this is insane. First of all, I'm like, oh my God, a bobcat, make yourself big. And then the second thought that went through my mind was, if that bobcat grabs my piece of salmon, I am fighting him for it. I'm going to whistle that damn piece of salmon out of that bobcat's mouth, because that is nice Atlantic salmon. That is an expensive fillet. And that bobcat better not eat my salmon.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
And did it?
So did it
Did
get
it?
your...
Went past?
It kept going. It saw me get up and do my the eyes of the children are frightened of this. That make my kids go, whatever, Mom, I did it. Okay. Just leave me alone.
Gosh, I love that story, and how amazing that we got to be a part of this, but we're keeping this in the show. This is awesome.
Yeah.
This is
Bobcat
awesome.
coming through.
I don't know what I was talking about before the bobcat walked past.
You were starting to write your sketch comedy.
Your sketch.
Oh, right.
You decided
the
to
one
write
you
a
did in
sketch.
Seattle. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So my friend and I, we presented sketch comedy. We could write our own characters and we could put it on. And that was a much more comfortable space for me, because I felt like we could try it out in front of an audience. And then I had a collaborator, I had a partner, and we would say, oh, that worked, that didn't work. And let's tweak this and let's fix that. And then let's present it again. Okay, now here's how it goes next step. So it was a much more for me a much more unified process and much more comfortable for me to go through that experience. Yeah.
And in depth. And when I think about the 90s, I remember the phrase, women can't be funny. So you were
Yes.
really coming up during that
Yeah.
time where you had
Yes.
to just kind of break all the ceilings.
Yes, yes, it was really hard. I mean, and the truth was, one of the things that I did discover when I was in college was that at college, the all male comedy group, which was called Mask and Wig, I actually went and I thought they are so funny. They get all the laughs, they get huge audiences. So one time, I actually, I was dating a guy who was the head of Mask and Wig, but he wasn't going to come to the audition. So I thought, I'm going to audition. I'm going to dress up like a guy and I'm going to go and put on a cap, and I practiced my walk, and I like and I went in and I did an audition, and I thought they're gonna discover me. But not only did they not discover me, on my way out, I heard my name was Dennis, and I heard somebody say, "Oh, Dennis is really funny," and
Oh
and
my
so I go
gosh.
back, and my name is on the callback list, Dennis, whatever my last name was, and I was like, "Yes, I'm going to get a Mask and Wig, and I'm going to just be me and be in Mask and Wig." Well, I come back for my callback, and my boyfriend is sitting at the table for the auditions. And I'm like, oh, he is definitely going to recognize me. Maybe.
You're
Maybe definitely.
still dressed as a man for
Still
your
dressed as a
callback.
man,
Oh, okay.
yeah, and this was like really bad. This is late 80s where I was like trying to do my Ferris Bueller's Day Off impression with like backwards cap and like the letter jacket. And so I get in there and I no sooner opened my mouth. I barely got anywhere when he says, "Hey, take off your hat." And I'm like, I take off my hat and he goes, "Oh, I knew it." And
Busted.
two guys fall off their chairs in laughter.
You should have gotten you
I
should have
could
gotten
not
it just
get
for
in.
that.
But that's when I started that co-ed group. And I was like, you know what? We're still going to do this thing, just not this way. I'm making my own thing.
Oh,
That
That
that's
is
is
funny.
so funny. Good for you. Wow, that takes a lot of courage to do that,
Yeah.
even more
uh,
than stand up.
Actually, funnily enough, that sort of thing, like I always try to think outside of the box. Like, how am I going to get my comedy out there? How am I going to, you know, try? My hope had been one day to get onto Saturday Night Live, but that's so out of my control, whether I get an audition or don't get an. What is in my control? Writing, 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 and not giving up, and sending out 134 letters to agents
Wow.
and waiting for things to come back and getting rejected and going, this is in your control, Ilana. You keep going and you can get this. And finally, hearing from an agent who was, yes, let's do this. And from Penguin and Berkeley, and them saying, we want this, and having the right timing and the right book. And boom, I just think it was about persistence and saying, it wasn't working the other ways. I'm going to do this way. So,
Well, congratulations.
Wow.
When did the agent say yes? When was that?
well, funny, the agent said yes about 8 years ago
That's good.
to a different book
Uh-huh.
that was about a pandemic.
Oh,
And it was finally ready in 2020 to
oh
go out
no.
to publishers. And when it got out to publishers, it was not a comedy. And the
No.
publishers were like, no, 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 no.
Too
Ew.
soon, too soon.
Too good. So my agent said to me, I was crushed, and she said, "Oh, write something, you're a comedian, write something funny, write something about something you love." And pickleball was just on the edge. And I happened to have been playing it already. I started during the pandemic, well, a little before the pandemic, but I really began to love it during the pandemic because we could all, I'm sure you probably had the same experience. We could be outside and
Yeah.
6 feet apart. And thank God for an extrovert like me who really needed that kind of social interaction and a laugh. And, I'm not an athlete, but it was the right thing for me. I was, older than 50 and had never played a competitive sport, had never played a sport with eye-hand coordination. I'm a swimmer because you can't fall. So that's about all I do. And you don't feel yourself sweating too much. So,
in the water.
yeah.
So how were you actually introduced to pickleball?
So I have a friend. I was living in Costa Rica because I love to travel and I love to live in other countries. And I was teaching at an international school. My husband and I were living there, and my kids were attending the school there when they were in middle school. And somebody said to me, a good friend of mine said, "Oh, I've been playing this sport. I'm so obsessed." And she described pickleball as like ping pong standing on the table. And I said, "That sounds really stupid."
That's a
She
very
said, "Oh,
common reaction.
she's offended." She's like, "It's not." And she said, "When you come back, you're going to play it with me and you're going to see." And I was like, "Oh, okay. All right, fine." And I did. And oh, yeah, I got hooked. I got hooked, and mostly on the community and just on
Yeah.
people who I know. I just feel so happy. I'll admit I am not a great pickleball player. I'm an okay pickleball player and I work really hard at it, pretty much kind of like I work hard at anything I put myself out there to do.
Mhm.
And I'm certainly better than I was, but I'm kind of coming to a point where it's okay that I'm never going to be the best pickleball player. I just really enjoy the experience and the community and the fun of it. So,
I love that about the game.
Yeah.
You
mhm,
don't have to be super good to still
mhm.
have just the best time. And I can lose every single game and still feel like, oh, what a privilege it was to be able to play today.
I just have to win one.
I just don't want to get pickled.
I just can't I can't leave if I haven't won one. So I have to look around the court and find somebody who has like, a paddle made out of like a spoon. I'm going to play with you against you, okay? With my paddle.
Have that sense of victory.
Right. You have to play with a blindfold, okay? I need to win.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So, how did pickleballers come to life then?
The book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it was number one, the pandemic. Number two, the science fiction book that I wrote that kind of went nowhere. And number three was I was talking with my daughter and she said the most interesting thing. She's in her 20s and she said, "Mom, you know what one of the most popular first dates is?" And I said, "No, I don't know." She said, "Well, it's pickleball because it's, there was super low pressure and it's just fun and relaxing and people have a good time with it." And so, Pickleballers, the book sort of came about by my thought of like, well, wouldn't that be a great place to meet somebody and to have, a first date or get to know someone because it is so social. And because we all like, we play with such a diverse group of people. Everybody is I would never meet these people in my
Right.
day-to-day life. I feel so fortunate to have the opportunity, especially across age lines.
Yeah.
I really am so happy to play with very young people, to play with very old people, and and medium old people like myself. And just have that kind of like opportunity also to play with people who've had such vastly different experiences in life than I have. And there is a considerable amount of waiting when you're waiting to play in a big group, and you just start talking to people and you get to know people who you wouldn't have. And I've become very dear friends with some of the people who I started playing pickleball with. I guess that was 6 or 7 years ago, have become very good friends of mine,
Hmm.
outside of pickleball and within just, and it's interesting. It's just, I love that idea of that. And also there's so many quirky people in pickleball.
I know it's really fun, isn't it?
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm quirky myself, right? But there's a lot of quirky people. And that's actually what tipped me off that this was going to be the book. Because one of those first scenes where everybody's on the court and there's all these players named Dave and they're all named Dave, right? And so that to me was very funny just to I really did meet all these pickleball Daves, and then I was like, oh my goodness, I think there's a book here.
Got to write about it. So give a synopsis
Mhm.
of Pickleballers.
Okay. So Meg, who's just recently gone through a divorce, and her dear friend Annie says to her, come on, I'm going to take you out on the pickleball courts and you're going to learn something new. And we're going to have a good time and we'll hit away all your frustrations. And she gets dragged out there. And she does find after a while, like 6 months or so, that she really enjoys it and starts loving this new community and finds her way there. Well, in the meantime, she is still continuing her art business when she has this very romantic sort of one car seat experience with with a stranger in her front seat of her car who's trapped in a seatbelt. It's a long story.
Yeah.
No, not really. It's a short story. So she has this sort of fling, and it sort of wakes her up to the fact that she's a sexual being and still wants to sort of have a love relationship in her life, despite the way her marriage went. And she's like, oh well, I'll never see him again. That was fun. Okay, so she is on the pickleball courts with her new community when she finds out that this very same guy is the one who's hoping to take down those pickleball courts and bring them back to nature, which is replace them with the
Oh,
natural setting that they used to be. And so he becomes sort of the enemy of the pickleball players, but she still has a soft spot in her heart for what he's trying to do in the world, but also doesn't want to like ruin this new community that she's just met. So the bulk of the action then moves to Bainbridge Island, where she goes to and just where pickleball originated, and that's just such a
oh
lovely
my.
place to set the story. I just really enjoyed setting it there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
your voices, because you are a comedian and an actress, you could do all the different voices so beautifully.
Thank you. Thank you
Yes.
so
I
much.
highly recommend to listening to Pickleballers
Yeah,
on
I'm
Audible
so glad
because
to hear you
it's
say that.
so good. It's so entertaining.
so fun.
And it's so full of funny humor. I like listening to it so I can really process the humor and just laugh. Like when you said that when Meg's husband broke up with her on the back of a Home Depot receipt. I mean, just like there's so many fun lines. Like I can't forget that. It was so funny. Like he tells her friend, I come home and on the back of a Home Depot receipt, he
Right, it's
says,
like,
I can't do this anymore. Like, how do you even think of that? That was so funny.
well, it's funny because later on in the book, he comes up to her and she's like, how could you do that on the back of a Home Depot receipt? And he says, well, in my defense, I did try to find a notepad.
Oh, well then, okay.
Jerk. I just,
You
I just,
jerk.
Oh, that's so
but, you
good.
know, but those kinds of things, I mean, actually, you know, it's funny that you should mention that moment because that moment I was thinking like, what is the most selfish thing he could possibly do? And
Yeah.
that was kind of the worst I could think of. And it was for a caulking gun
Yes,
too,
the
you know,
caulking gun. And she was like, what
a
was he
receipt for,
caulking? She didn't even know he was caulking it. Like,
yes, I don't know what he was caulking. And
yeah.
just the word caulk is
Yeah.
just
I know. That was
hilariously
funny. Yeah.
funny. And I mean, I'm just like, I have to use the word. I just have to.
Oh, yeah. Well, we highly recommend this book and can't wait for your next one to come out as well. Oh my
Oh
gosh.
yeah, Pickle Perfect. That's coming out
Pickle
October
Perfect.
28th. I'm so excited for it. So
And can people pre-order?
yes, I would love if people pre-ordered. You can
Good.
pre-order on penguinrandomhouse.com. But if it's easier, you can go to my website and order both books, ilanalong.com. That's ILANALONG.com. And
Nice.
also, I'm on Instagram at Ilana Long Writes. I had to think about it. And actually, there's two giveaways going on right now. One is on Goodreads for Pickle Perfect. And there's
Oh,
another one on Instagram at Ilana Long Writes. And that's for a copy of Pickleballers. So anyone who can check
Awesome.
those out can find those giveaways.
that's
Awesome. And we'll
awesome.
put those in the notes as well.
Yeah.
And so, with all this that you've gone through in your life, on and off the court, what life lessons have you gleaned?
Okay. You know, it's interesting because a few things, if I may.
Yes, you
so,
may.
so one is that pickleball itself is something that brought me the awareness that I need to be more open in my friendships. and that they span. My friendships do not have to be limited to people who are exactly like me. They can be more open. And since I started pickleball, I have friends who are older. I have friends who are younger. I have friends who are in very different kinds of professions than I am. And I have learned so much. It has opened me up to being a person who is more open in her community thinking, and just how I can be like that. So that's one. The next thing I realized is that it's never too late. It's never too late. Like I said, I was not an athlete. I was kind of an actress, and I did some painting and some music and some singing and some acting and that sort of thing. But I would not have said I identify myself as an athlete. But now I would say I'm a sports person. I wrote a sports comedy, for goodness sake. That's crazy. So it's never too late to start a sport. I started after I was 50. I didn't have my debut novel. I started writing. I mean, I've been writing for a long time, but it's never too late to keep pushing and thinking you're going to get published. Most of the authors of romantic comedies are considerably 20, 30 years younger than I am. And mine is being my first debut was published I was 57 when Pickleballers was published. And so this is a big lesson for me, that this is not something that you can no longer do. Oh, you've passed the point where you can do these things. Pickleball and writing and being a published author with a major publishing house. These are things that I did later in life, and really. And I just started a new venue also in doing, I used to do a lot of singing and songwriting and guitar and piano playing. Yeah,
Wow.
Gosh.
put it to the side. Yeah, right? Who knew? And now I've picked all those things up again. I've written a lot of new music, and I'm finding that very satisfying. Also, in the last year or two, started doing those things again that I haven't done in more than 30 years. So
Wow.
My
satisfying.
goodness.
Mm-hmm.
You're an inspiration, my friend.
Thank you. And one other life lesson that I remember was something that Rooster said in the book. And I'm going to try to do Rooster's voice here because I actually love doing Rooster's voice. He said, "Life's like pickleball. You got to release the bad habits and patterns before you can move forward." And that sort of always, I mean, when I wrote that, she was talking about this bad serve that she had, and she kept trying it and kept trying it. And I actually had that bad serve where I would stand sideways, and I refused to let go of it because I knew how to do it. And my husband, who's an instructor, said, if you just face forward, I promise you're going to get a better serve out of it. And I'm like, my serve's great. So finally, I tried the other way. And granted, it took me a long time because that pattern was so ingrained in stand sideways and serve. That works. Once I released that, it really was like life. Once I felt like, okay, I don't have to keep doing that, even though I'm used to doing whatever that is, that bad habit, that bad pattern. Even though I'm used to it, I don't have to continue. I can try something different. So, I mean, even with like deciding to try to get an agent after I've been, rejected and rejected and rejected, that doesn't mean that every time that's going to happen. If I'm trying the good habit now, it might work the next time. And it did.
I love
So,
that.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome.
Awesome.
yeah.
And you and Shelly are going to see each other on the court one of
Court.
these days.
Yeah.
It's
That's
crazy.
so cool.
I just have to ask one last fun question.
Yeah.
So if Pickleballers is ever on Netflix, who do you want to play the lead roles? Who would you
Oh,
envision?
gosh. Oh my gosh, I can never remember her name. She was the lead in Bridesmaids. So funny. Or somebody of that ilk, who's
Yeah.
just, sort of self-effacing, a Tina Fey type of
Oh yeah,
character.
so
And,
funny.
but
Yeah.
I really want to play one of the other characters in it, maybe Ethan's mom or something. I think I really, really have to
You
play
have to
a
be in it, no
character,
Oh, for
question.
sure.
or another.
That's part of the deal. And it
Right.
doesn't
I'm
have to
sorry.
even be
I
Netflix.
reached sign here. Okay. Come on, even if it's tiny, tiny, I want a cameo.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a hoot as much as your books are. Pickleballers, everybody. Pickleballers, you can get
Pickleballers.
that right now.
You can
And
get it
then
Amen.
in
right now, and you
October,
can order
Pickle
Pickle Perfect.
Perfect.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my gosh. Ilana,
Fantastic.
thank you.
Thank
This has
you so
really been a
much.
lot of
Yeah.
fun,
Yeah,
and we're thrilled to be able to let people know more about your work, your
thank
comedy, and
you.
your books. Very, very fun.
Thank you both. This has been a blast. Really
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Thank
And
you very much.
thank you all. Go get that book. You are going to love it. And you read it.
Yes, and read it.
If you want the paperback, but also listen to it. The voices are hilarious, and so is the comedy
Yeah.
of the writing. Just
You
a
might have
really
to get both because the paperback has such a cute cover and the
It
audio has
does.
my own personal narration. So Pickleballers is great in any form that you get it.
I
Yes.
love that, Ilana. Good for you. And for those who are watching on YouTube, you can see the covers behind Ilana. They're really awesome art. So, yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. What a fun day. Thank
Sure.
you all. And we look forward to another conversation next week. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you love our podcast, we'd be so grateful if you'd take a few seconds to follow or subscribe to Life Lessons from Pickleball. This ensures you'll never miss an episode and helps us continue these wonderful conversations.
On Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, go to the show page and tap the follow button in the top right corner. And on YouTube, click the subscribe button under any of the episodes.
Thanks so much. Hope to see you on the court.